in and out.
She is frozen. If you would like to start, Shelley.
Okay. So welcome to the Road to Success, paving the road to safety 1 mile at a time. We are the Mental Health, Wellness, and Safety Committee. With us today, we have Karen Mazzola and Carolyn Nelson-Goddard. Karen, would you like to say something?
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for being here and some repeat offenders, so to speak. We appreciate you taking your personal time out to learn about mental health, wellness, and safety. I posted on my Facebook, there are some great programming ideas as a part of this presentation. So we welcome you. And I give you none other than our president of Florida PTA, Carolyn Nelson-Goddard.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you to the committee for putting together this presentation. I had an opportunity to sit in earlier and listen to all of the good information that they have gathered to provide to you this evening. The only person I don't know here, and I think I may have met you, Sam, when I was in Pensacola, is Sam, the only newcomer for this evening, and I want to welcome you, give you a special welcome. Thank you for joining us, and I hope that you will share the information that you receive with the other units in Escambia County and with someone who may happen upon you and just need some help. I'd like to introduce the members of the Executive Committee of Florida PTA and the Board of Directors. You've already met Karen Mazzola, who is our Vice President for Educational Development.
Hello.
We also have with us this evening our Secretary, Melanie Williams.
Good evening. I'm driving. Sorry to be off camera. Welcome, everyone.
All right. And we also have with us, and she'll be back in a moment, I think because of her technical difficulties, Asia Claremont, who is our Mental Health, Wellness, and Safety Chair. And last but not least, we have with us Alvin Gainey, who is both the Chair of our Leadership Development Committee and our Centennial Celebration Committee. Sam, I hope that you're aware that we just turned 100 years old about 5 days ago, and I think we look pretty good for that. Asia is back, and Asia, I'll ask you to introduce the members of your committee. If she doesn't jump in, Shelley, can you do that for us?
Okay, she can jump in whenever she's ready. Our chair of our committee is Asia Claremont. I am Shelley Pedraza. I am the vice chair for our committee. And we also have Maria Kahlberg, one of our members in our committee. Fabulous member. Up next, we always start every webinar, every training, every get together, we always make sure that we mention the PTA's mission. That is our destination. So the PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. My child, your child, our children. So we're gonna go ahead and start our webinar. Let me check and see if Asia's with us. Okay, so the idea for this webinar, we wanted to make sure that we were giving you tools for your toolkit when it comes to mental health, wellness, and safety. So in your toolkit, just keep in mind that we are not the experts of the subject matter. So these are things that we have, we have learned within, our different things that we've done, and we've been able to put some things together, but we are only providing resources since this is out of our scope of practice. Okay. Introduction. So let me make sure. As parents, our role is to provide, teach, influence, guide, and protect our children. The purpose of this workshop and this webinar aims to discuss the safety issues that impact our children and provide the necessary tools to our safety toolbox. We will provide information, resources, and tips on creating a family safety plan, and touch on gun safety and a few other things. Join us for ideas on creating local mental health, wellness, and safety unit programs. So we just wanted to give you an overview of what we're going to be going over. And we're going to just jump into safety. So what is safety for you? We're going to go ahead, and if you want to go ahead and just put in the chat, what does safety mean to you? No cheating. Don't read my slides before you answer. That's good. Those are very good answers. Okay, so we have secure, no fear, trust. Those are very good. So for the purpose of this, we are looking at safety of our children, right? So all of those are amazing answers because, well, our children need to not feel fear. We want to make sure that they feel safe. We want to make sure that they are around people that they can trust and that they feel secure. So those are awesome answers. So safety is a concept that includes all measures and practices taken to preserve the life, health, and bodily integrity of individuals. There is another element when it comes to wellness of the individual that encompasses their mind, moods, emotions, environment, and relationships of any type. So that's either with yourself, with others, friends, family, within your education, your careers. So there are a lot of things that go into the safety, not just physical safety, but also emotional safety, like you guys mentioned. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about was creating a family safety plan. So what is a family safety plan? A safety plan is a written, personalized document that outlines the method for determining the physical and health risks that could endanger your family and the steps to be taken in a dangerous situation. So for example, when I was younger, we always had a family safety plan for what if there was a fire in the house, right? So my mom always, like, we had this huge tree in front of our house. So that was our plan. We knew that if something ever happened, that we would go to that one spot. So she knew, okay, all of my kids are there. I don't have to worry, or whatever the case is. And we also had like a code word. So like if somebody ever came to my school to pick me up, I knew, okay, if they do not use this code word, I do not trust this person. So these are all things that you want to include in your safety plan. So you want to make sure that you are all on the same page and communicating. Okay. What is the benefit of a safety plan? So the benefit is to prepare our children for dangerous and uncontrollable events, such as natural disasters, home fires, kidnapping, and unfortunately, gun shooting, because that is the world we live in at this point. Things to keep in mind. So when you're developing your family safety plan, you want to make sure that you're including everyone in the plan, right? We need the buy-in of our kids, because when we tell our kids to do something, they don't necessarily listen to 100% of the things that we say. So we need to make sure that they are actually engaged and they are all in on this plan, right? So like whether it is, okay, you have to, whatever the word is. So like if it's, like Asia, when we were discussing before, her daughter used to say, I am a princess, or I'm your princess. So, hi, Asia. So, her daughter would say, I am your princess. So she knew, okay, my daughter doesn't feel safe or something's going on. So I need to keep an eye on her. So you just want to make sure that you're engaging them. Asia, if you want to hop on and you're able, you can.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you. And as Shelly was saying, we just have to make sure that we have a code word for our kids, and we include the kids when we are doing a safety plan. We want to make it educational, we want to make it fun, and we want to go over different things. We want also to have a list of people in case of an emergency. And those people, it's good to be individuals that live close by, like family members, friends, neighbors. Also list of emergency numbers. 911, and you can also adding to your safety family plan and evacuation zone, there is for any natural disaster, if an earthquake, an event of a tornado, an event of a hurricane, you want to have an evacuation plan for your kids, for the family. And I don't know if Shelly went over the cartoon that it is in that slide, that I really loved it, because if you see in the cartoon, the wife is telling the husband, guess what? You forgot to take with you this morning. And it was his protective gear for work. And he comes home with a broken head. And sometimes we do that. We try to go be saved in the aftermath. And safety is a matter of working together as a team. It's a matter of being a preventive measure. Okay. With that said, I'm going to segue to what are the components of a safety plan. As I mentioned before, we want to have a list of things, and Shelly went over the code word that it's good to have. Kids are very creative when you are going to that, and I think that's the most fun part of it, because they can be used to imagination and create any word that they might remember. It's like a password, but it's good for them. And Shelly mentioned that, and please make sure that safety is a way for us to prepare and to engage our kids and equip them, and because that's our job as parents. With that, I will say that if you have any questions in regards to this piece, please feel free to ask us any question at this moment about safety plan, family safety plan, about safety, anything. We want to hear you guys. Anybody? You can also put your question in the chat if you decide to do so.
I was wondering if anyone could share what they do that might be different.
Karen, I was gonna make mention of, we're doing this for the family, yes, but also as adults. And I like that Florida PTA does that when we're going on our board of directors meeting away from home. Madam President need to have an emergency contact. So that's something we need to make sure we have that, even as our local board members. You're out at a meeting and something happened to one of your board members, do you know who to reach out to? I think that's a good crucial piece as well for us as adults.
And something that I've recommended and suggested to members since I've been a part of not only Florida PTA, but a part of the county council, is when you're traveling, make sure you tell your family not only who you're traveling with and how to get a hold of them, but some contact information about the hotel, about somebody in the state office or wherever you're traveling. But first and foremost, make sure that your family knows who you're traveling with and how to get a hold of them.
And I know a couple people who they get 2 keys and they give the other one to their best friend who's in
Yes, we do
another
that.
place.
In case that someone needs to get into your room, they're not waiting for the hotel to say, we don't know if we can go in there. If there's an emergency, access is important and time matters.
And I will add, like when it comes to our kids, my son is 14 years old. He's autistic. And like I have taught him the stranger danger, right? I've already said, like, if somebody comes up to you, you don't go with them and stuff like that. And he's always been really good about it. And then recently I was like, let me ask him a few follow-up questions, because it like popped into my head. And I was like, okay, so what if it's a stranger, but they're looking for their puppy? Instantly, he was like, I will go help look for the puppy. And I'm like, no. So just make sure that you're following up, because we explain things to our kids, but we need to make sure that we're explaining the details and different scenarios, because not everyone is going to be able to generalize and say, okay, all strangers, I can't go with them, or, all those types of situations.
So I used to do a lot of primitive camping and so forth too. And so that's something that you can keep in mind is how you ID your children or how you ID yourself is important. I would always stick everything inside my sock in my boot, and it would be my ID, important contact information for emergency contacts. Writing out your emergency contacts, I know, is very important, and you might want to have those placed also around the house, inside of the rooms, inside particular areas in the rooms, like a bedroom closet. So if they have to hide, they have the emergency contact informations there. You also want to just make sure that in their phones that even they have ICE, meaning emergent, in case of an emergency, in front of those individuals' names. I have them for 5 people in my family. ICE is my contact. ICE 1, ICE 2, ICE 3, ICE 4, ICE 5. And that way they know in order who's the person that they need to contact. So even if the police are able to get into your phone and they don't have any ID on you, then they can look up your ICE contacts. They know what that means. The other part is just to make sure that the texting that in this, I know in Pinellas County, but I think you have to check and see what your locality is, what they have available as far as texting like 911. Because if you speak on the phone, it can draw an assailant to you instead of helping you. So texting 911 is available in a lot of the counties now. So just have to see if it's available in your area. So that's a way that they can text and not have someone drawn to them. And keeping their phones on silent instead of, any level of volume is so that they don't get phone calls that would also draw them. Because the first thing we want to do when we know that there's a mass shooting somewhere, we want to call our loved ones, and we can actually be endangering them in that situation.
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, everybody. Is there anybody else I'm going to share anything? I also remember that it's not just when you have a loved one that maybe they have, they are in age or from the ages 40 and up or 35 and up. There's an acronym that is called FACE, that when you look at the face of an individual, if it's drop in the face, the arm gets weakness, and the speech get blurred, you can teach your kids that to look for that signs, because a minute matter, and you need to call immediately 911, because you don't know if you're going to have a stroke and your child is there and they don't know what to do. There's so many things that we can teach our children in regards to safety. Also develop an acronym for the family that you want to have in case of an emergency. It's always good to make it in, like I said, educational, fun, and engaging for the whole family. If there's not anybody else that want to share, then Maria, we want to hear from you. You're muted.
So sorry about that. The impact of gun violence on children and adolescents. Firearm injuries and death in the US has increased in recent years, and we're over the 365 days a year. So we are over that amount already in this year alone, which is much more than last year. So that's a very dire, gloomy look at what's going on in our society. It is a society where we are having to protect our children, but we don't have the things there that are to help us protect our children. So it can affect their mental health and well-being. We want to make sure that everybody understands that we have resources out there that can help with the aftermath. But we also want to talk about what's the preventative. So these things about having a safety plan ahead is not just about what's going on at schools, but knowing where your exits are when you're going to the mall or to a restaurant or to a movie theater, which we've known those things have had attacks as well from assailants who are doing mass shootings. And there have been so many mass shootings across the US. So we want to make sure that we can do whatever we can to protect them. We do have a short video here. Again, I want to point out to you, yes, we want to protect our kids and everything else, but we want to be mindful of the well-being and mental health of those people that are viewing this right now. It is a short video. It's not too horrible. However, your too horrible may be different from my too horrible. So go ahead and mute or turn yourself away from this short clipping if you are very sensitive to hearing things about mass shootings.
"2022 was the second highest year on record for mass shootings in the US, with more than 640 incidents according to the Gun Violence Archive. Many are now looking back for warning signs from the shooters about their intent to commit future crimes and asking, could they have been stopped? For years, the FBI has been analyzing this phenomenon, which they call leakage.
Leakage is anything that someone relays, whether consciously or unconsciously, that kind of indicates that they are having troubles, they're troubled, they might want to commit a violent act against themselves or others, whether that's suicide or whether that's something as extreme as a mass shooting.
One dataset shows that more than half of active shooters shared their intent to commit violence in some way. And as technology becomes more advanced, there are an increasing number of opportunities.
Before the social media world and before more sophisticated internet connections that we have now, a lot of these interactions and a lot of this type of information wouldn't even be identifiable. It wouldn't have been recorded. So the great benefit that we have is that, yes, stories are telling us, hey, look back at all these things that are signs that might have been missed.
The gunman in Buffalo was previously taken into custody for psychiatric evaluation after making statements in school about wanting to commit violence, but was released.
In the Buffalo case, I think one of the things that stood out to me is that there was a mental health evaluation, a psychiatric evaluation, based on the fact that he had made statements. Law enforcement interceded.
In Uvalde, Texas, authorities identified multiple occasions where the shooter had given clues about his plans.
Though there were a slew of examples of things that might have, in an aggregate, shown a pattern of a concern, the state report also identified that many of those were privately known. They were personally known, family members knew them or friends knew them, but they weren't all put together.
A judge in Colorado Springs warned that one man's situation would likely get worse if he didn't receive mental health treatment after he was arrested for an attempted kidnapping and bomb threats.
I think whether you look at a handful of situations that just occurred in the past year, Colorado, Club Q is a good example. The situation in Chesapeake, the situation up in Highland Park. You have parents who have some interaction with law enforcement because their family member is acting violently.
Last year, President Biden signed a new bill into law that aimed to prevent possibly dangerous people from accessing guns and boosting spending for mental health. But authorities still face many issues when tackling this problem.
In those cases, friends and family members, intimate partners and spouses, although they are the first to know whether or not somebody is a higher concern, they're the least likely to respond and to report them. Of course, it's a protective measure, right? But if I said to you as a parent, 30 to 40% of these shooters want to kill themselves as well as other people. And by reporting the concern about your child or your husband, you could save their life or the life of those around you. You might react differently.
2022 was the second highest year.
So one of the things I want to say is that I belong to the Pinellas County Health and Medical Preparedness Team. And we were very fortunate in having the director of the FBI for Florida, who was headed the investigation and on site for the Club Pulse incident in Orlando. one of the things that we, even as adults, the first thing we do is like, oh, we're going to play dead. We're not going to move. We're going to stay still and it's all going to pass and it's fine. Well, that particular incident happened, and the gentleman had the assailant, I'm not going to call him a gentleman because he wasn't. The assailant had a gun that he had a cartridge that had to be replaced mid shooting spree. There was an opportunity for people to run out, for tackling him, to finding a place to hide and barricading themselves, but instead they stayed still, and the rest of them died because of it. So we don't know what situations are going to happen and when they're going to happen. All we know is that, you know, it will happen, and it may happen. It happens in every, because it doesn't take but 3 people for it to be a mass shooting. So we have to remember that too. So it happens in every county, everywhere in the United States. And one last thing about that is that we want to make sure that when we're in those situations that we don't have the what ifs or if onlys coming up. And if we can do what we can now to prevent and educate our, not only our children, but our adults who are taking care of those children, then the better we are going to be in preparing all of us in this. The firearm suicide rate in 2020 in America, you see in this graph, is that states with the least firearm law provisions have the highest number of suicides by in the population, and states with the most firearm law provisions have the least amounts of suicide. So that shows us there that this is that the firearm law provisions that are in place that help limit access to those individuals who are at high risk of committing something like this, then we're seeing a lot less of the suicidal rates in those individuals. It's just less access. So with the next graph, we have the US is the only country among its peers in which guns are the leading cause of death among children and teens. There are plenty of countries out there that do have very strict gun laws. Number one, of course, is the US with the most firearm incidents, and that is at 4,357 as of 2020. That's what that rate was. So in Japan, for instance, I happen to know that the Prime Minister of Japan that was shot last year, I believe, and killed, that gun was a homemade gun. And it was not something that the person could just purchase, because you can't just purchase a weapon like that or a gun. It has to be given out to law enforcement and so forth, and you have to sign out for it. So that is not accessible in the public, for the public. So again, this proves that gun laws that are in place that help prevent society for getting arms that could harm one another, that then this is a way to really kind of monitor and to keep everybody safe. One last thing is that I wanted to go back to the writing out of the emergency contacts. The reason why you want to write it out is because there's this thing called digital dementia, where we don't remember phone numbers right off the top of our heads because we're so reliant on our phones to give us the phone numbers. But if we don't have our phone and we need to do an emergency phone call with somebody else's phone, then we at least, you know, if we have something written out, then we have that with us, you know, laminated or something, and keep it on you. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Maria, and thank you so much. That is a great information in regards to the digital dementia. And it's true, the less that we use our brain, the more we have more likely we have the ability to forget things that we should remember. And it's very important to keep that in mind. Also, I want to tie this up. The students are tired of going to school and being afraid. And last Wednesday, we had Taylor Miller that she, among other high schoolers, on the 5th of this month, they did a national student walk out because they were protesting in regards to the gun. There've been so many mass shootings, and we need to keep that. If our children are doing this step to say enough is enough, we want to go to school and have a safety place, we as parents want to support that, and we want to make sure that we also fight for our children in regards to that, because we don't want them to be scared. That can cause a lot of mental illness in regards to PTSD, any depression, anxiety, and you name it. And it's just as a result of any unfortunate event, any traumatic episode facing in life. Just to keep them safe and sound, it is good to look around and make sure that we have a safety plan for our loved ones. If anybody has any questions or would like to share anything in regards to what we just covered, that, thank you, Maria, so much for that wealth of information. Please, now is the time. If you want to add, if you want to ask questions. No? Shelly, I guess then we're going to be hearing from Shelly, our next speaker.
Hi again. Okay, so you all didn't realize, but this is totally a quiz. We're going to be talking about programs next, right? So the idea is to explain, you know, like some of the safety programs and wellness programs and stuff like that. So what is your, without cheating and looking at my slides, what is the number one thing that you should consider when looking at what you're going to be making for a program? So like whatever program you're deciding to do, what do you think is the number one thing that you should be considering? Go ahead and put that in the chat. There's no wrong answers. Everything that we look at is important, but there's one definite thing that we have to. I should have known Karen was going to get the right answer right off the bat. Definitely you want to make sure that you're looking at your audience, right? Because what speaks to one audience isn't necessarily going to speak to the other. And what one audience needs doesn't necessarily mean that the other community or group of people will need that same thing. So good job, Karen. Okay, so we're going to look at SMART goals very quickly. So SMART is specifics, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So when we talk about specific, we are talking about exactly what you want to accomplish. So the who, the what, the where, like what exactly do you want to do? When we look at measurable, we are looking at how can we demonstrate that we are able to evaluate the extent to which the goal has been met. So for example, if you want to keep track of your engagement in your PTA, like if you have a lower engagement and you are really working hard to increase that engagement number and make sure that you're supporting more students and more families and stuff like that, then you may look at your attendance. So you may look at, okay, at this last event that we held or the last program, we had this many students attend. And then you can look and say, okay, you know, this time we had this many. So that is something that is measurable. You're able to kind of see the difference and compare. Achievable. We always want to make sure that we stretch and challenge ourselves, and we kind of, you know, continue to stretch our goals, but you want to make sure that it's achievable as well. If your goal is way too far from your current situation, then it might, you know, kind of damper the mood and make people less excited to do whatever the event is or do whatever the program is and stuff like that. Because if you are in the last program, let's say you only had 15 people attend, and you are saying, okay, this program we're going to have 250 families come through. Is that achievable? Right? So you want to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure. And you want to make sure that you're making sure that it's achievable, and it's able to be done. Relevant. How does the goal tie into your key responsibilities? So does it go with our mission, right? We started off with the PTA mission. Everything always needs to go back to our babies, to our mission. So is this relevant to our mission? Is it something that the PTA can and is able to do? And if not, then you need to rethink what you're doing. Maybe that is not the program for you. Maybe it's something that the school can do, or another organization might be able to do in support in that way. But we want to make sure that we are always keeping our mission in mind and we're aligning our programs to that. Time bound. You want to make sure that you have your target dates. So you never want to be like, oh, well, whenever. You want to make sure that you're putting dates in place. So, okay, we are going to do a flyer. This is the date that the flyer is due. This is when we're going to send it out. This is the date that we need to have our plans in place or our speaker chosen or whatever the case is. So you want to make sure that that time is written down somewhere so everyone's on the same page. Any questions about SMART? We're good? Okay. So one of the big things that you can do to start off the year, especially going into next year, it's review prior year programs. You want to see what worked, what didn't work, what maybe would work if you tweaked it a little bit. So you just want to look at those past programs. You want to survey your school community to see what they actually would like. What we think we need to do may not necessarily be what our families actually want or need. So we really need to make sure that we are doing that survey and really listening to what it says. And that kind of ties into the next one, where it's prioritize the community feedback. Even if our goal was one specific thing that year, but the community feedback says we really need to work on mental health, or we really need to work on bike safety or something else, then you need to prioritize that feedback and figure out a way that you can make that happen for the community, to make sure that you are meeting those needs. Network with other PTAs for possible collaboration. That is something that a lot of our PTAs do, and it's amazing to watch. So whether it's an elementary partnering with a middle school, or a middle school partnering with a high school, I've seen all three partner together for one event where each group is responsible for a different portion of the event, but they all are able to bring their families in, which is amazing. So just remember, we're stronger together. So if you have another PTA in your area and you want to partner with them, that's beautiful. Brainstorm ideas on programs with board and committee members. So just make sure that you bounce those ideas off of each other and you kind of come up with the plan together. Check program information from council, state, and national PTA resources. Our Florida State PTA and national have a lot of resources that you can look at, and your county councils have tons of information. So definitely reach out to them when needed. Creating a program. So you want to make sure that when you're implementing your programs, you are looking at community engagement. So you want to make sure that you're involving the students, the families, and anyone else that could potentially benefit from that program. You can invite them to help plan it with you. Always consider school and community factors for program plans, including translation needs, transportation, site access for our disabled people, and meeting place availability. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what could potentially keep someone from attending your program. PTA insurance, you want to make sure that every program, the requirements, because we have very specific insurance requirements for certain things. So you want to make sure that you are following the insurance requirements and not doing something that would violate your insurance. Volunteers, make sure that you are coordinating and delegating volunteer recruitment to assist in running the program. We always need help, and it's okay to ask for help. There's no way that a PTA can function without asking for help. We need the support of our community, so definitely reach out and ask for volunteers. Presenters, it's always an amazing idea to get a presenter. As PTA volunteers, sometimes they don't want to listen to us all the time. So it's a great idea to have somebody come that is very knowledgeable in whatever subject that you are trying to do a program in, and have them present. Make sure that you follow up, have all the specific times and everything like that in the email so that everyone's on the same page, and make sure that you are sending out the marketing materials. So you are sending notices and newsletters, sending letters home in backpacks, email blasts, social networking, to make sure that everyone is aware of this amazing program that you're going to do. And finally, make sure that you are reviewing the materials before you send them out. It's always a great idea to have a second or third pair of eyes to just keep an eye on stuff. Presenting programs. So arrive early, check the site for requested equipment. So if you needed hospitality arrangements, or if you have audio visual equipment that you need to set up, make sure you check that. Greet the presenter, introduce the presenter and the topic, and after the presentation, make sure to thank the presenter, because it's amazing, how many people are willing to present to our communities, especially for free. We have so many community nonprofits that are willing to help us out. So tell them thank you, send them an email or a note. And then finally, evaluate. You want to make sure that you're evaluating your programs, because we may think we did the most amazing job ever, but maybe there was something that we could have done better. Maybe there was someone that felt left out. Maybe there was something that we didn't think about. So you want to make sure that you are reviewing the programs as a committee. Make sure that you write down if something went well, something went bad, maybe we needed to adjust this, and do an exit survey. So you want to make sure that when you, sorry, my throat's, you want to make sure that when you are doing that exit survey, that you are open to whatever comments are coming your way, right? Because we can't say, oh my gosh, yes, I want an exit survey, but I'm only going to read the good ones. You want to make sure that you read everything, you take everything in, and with open eyes, you say, okay, this is right. We can definitely work on this. We can do this, and just keep all of that information, give it to the next board, make sure that they are aware of, and you are transitioning, because at the end of the year, we do have to transition everything. So you want to make sure that you're giving them a procedure book, and then having anything that, like, we did awesome with this, we need to tweak this a little bit, any copies of correspondence or resources or anything like that. And that is Asia.
Thank you so much, Shelly. And if you guys have any questions for program, please feel free to write your comments on the chat or anything that you want to add. I will greatly appreciate it. And just to give you, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about it while I give a recap of what we have covered so far. So far, we talked about, we look at safety, and we determined that is our job and is a teamwork. It's a preventive measures that we do for our families, a gift to our loved one. We looked at the mental health aspect in regards to, we learned how firearms can trigger and expose our children to mental incidents such as PTSD, anxiety, and any other disorder involved with post-traumatic effect. And now we're going to look at the third part. If you look at it, we cover mental health, safety, and now we're going to talk a little bit about wellness. Before I enter into wellness, if anybody has any questions in regards to programs or anything, now is the time before we get into the wellness piece. Maria said it's so important to reflect on your programs. Thank you, Maria. Okay, so wellness. What is actually wellness? Wellness is the act of practicing healthy habits And wellness is kind of an umbrella, and it touches every aspect in our lives. It has 8 dimensions. One is the emotional piece of it, the environmental, the financial, the intellectual, the physical, the spiritual, and the occupational. So when we do live, we practice those healthy habits every day to what? Not just to be living, but just to thrive. And with it, I want to highlight some of the things that we do as a PTA. If you look at emotional is coping with effectively with life and react in creating satisfying relationship. We do that at PTA. We take that part into consideration. The spiritual aspect, expanding our sense of purpose and meaning in life. That's the mission of PTA, to make sure that that all our children are our children, for them to reach their maximum potential. Intellectual, recognizing the creative abilities and finding ways to expand knowledge and skills. We do that in reflection programs that we have, is just making sure the creativity of the kids are in function. Financial, we do so many programs about financial literacy. It's satisfying in making sure that you have enough for your current life or future financial situations. Occupational, personal satisfaction and environment driven from one's work. We do that at PTA. We do this with a passion, but we also give tools and resources to the parents. And sometimes there are units that even hold a job fair for the parents, or a college fair for the student. That's part of the occupational. Social, it's developing the sense of community. And we do that when we engage the parents, when we engage our community, and even us in our board level, what we do with each other, that community, that family unity that we have. In physical, recognizing the need that we need to have physical activity. We do the colors run, that's part of that. In environmental, we do here in Pinellas, we do Keep Pinellas Beautiful. That's something that we do as a PTA, just to make sure that we take care of our environment, not just the physical part of it, but also at home, the environment that we create with our relationship. So if you see, wellness is not just, and some people take wellness as health as they are together, but picture wellness as in being an umbrella. And because it's also touched the physical, your physical is your health. Whatever happened with it, when you go to the doctor, your daily checkup. We do clinics when we do programs on the PTA, like the safety and healthy fair that we have done. So we touch every area that is important for the individual to thrive and not to leave. So again, for your resources that we have provided to you tonight, just keep in mind, as Shelly said, what is it that we're gonna do for our community? Pulse it, sense it, find out what is needed. When you do your exit survey, make sure that you also ask what they wanna see next for you to cover. And Shelly, if you go to the next slide, I greatly appreciate it. Now, with this, I want to say the tools and resources that we have provided to you tonight is with the sentiment to create growth, to help you to go beyond to what we just have in front of us. Make sure that you use your resources wisely, effectively, efficiently, and of course, economically. You need to be responsible with what you have. And with that, if you have any questions with anything that we have covered tonight in regards to safety, in regards to mental health, in regards to wellness, now is the time before we start diving into what resources we have gathered for you guys to utilize for when you create in programs, and just to be aware to what is out there. Anybody has anything to share or any questions, please, now is the time. No? Okay, so Shelly.
Okay, so Each one of these is actually a clickable link. I know it's a little bit extra of us. But we wanted to make sure that you got an accurate idea of how many safety programs are available. So this breaks it down. So you have big kids 5 through 9, preteens 10 to 14, teens 15 to 19, and then if you look underneath it, like it talks about bike safety, fall prevention, fire safety, gun safety, medications, playground, poison, sports. It has a lot of different things and by the age groups. And this is actually from Safe Kids worldwide. Safe Kids Florida is led by Florida Department of Health. So each state has their own, and then is based on the needs of the community. So this coalition implements programs. So you can actually call them, have them come out to your school, and they will do a workshop on some of these different safety issues. And it's free. I mean, it's one of those things that they are there to help our kids. And to add, I don't have it on here, but one of the major things that we do have to also consider in Florida, it's the human trafficking aspect. And then like there's dating violence and stuff like that and all these different things. Dating violence, what is it? It's called Safe House. Safe House does have presentations as well. They have things with like relationship jeopardy or family feud, being a good friend, how to help a friend. And they also have workshops for adults. So the workshops for adults are like having teachable moments, how to talk to youth, and understanding dating violence and stuff like that. So there are a lot of options out there for the safety of our kids.
Thank you, Shelley. In the next slides is we have came up with a list with the mental health theme from A through Z that you can use also to create workshops in regards to mental health. There's the list also includes that you can look at the list and to see what's the month of today for mental health, what the celebrating is, the violence, anger, anything, anxiety disorders date. We have a list that, again, it goes from A through Z. So that way it's also a resource that we're going to have available for you. You can ask us and you can send us an email for us to provide it to you. Maria?
Sorry, this is just a continuation of the @Health, mental health A to Z, that's providing all those resources, clickable links that you can get to and discover anything that you want to discover about the mental health different aspects of mental health.
Thank you. And we had the last slide, it's just some programs ideas, again, that we put out last Road to Success that we did. So we're also going to make it available to you as well. And if you have any questions at this point, the Road to Success is always under construction. We want to keep that in mind. So please, to request the resources, email us at mental.health@floridapta.org. And before we open up the floor for questions or final remarks, I would like to say this. As local leaders, it's our responsibility to educate not just our community, but also our board. It is important to be intentional in regards to keep the board's mental health and wellness in check. It's good to do day outing for the board, like at some summit or any retreat that you might plan. Just include that in your planning. When you're planning for programs, plan something for the board as well, because it is good to be safe and have a healthy board that we all are thriving as a volunteer. At this moment, is there any question before we give the floor to our president?
I
Or
was
any
wondering,
comments?
Asia,
Yes.
if you could make those slides into a newsletter article so that when they hit the newsletter, if they could click on them and go straight to the source.
Was that beautiful?
Sure, we will do that. We can
Awesome.
do that. So any other suggestion, question, or request? Well, with that, I'm going to give the floor to our Madam President, Carolyn Godet.
Thank you, Asia. Thank you to you and the committee for once again providing invaluable information about keeping ourselves and our families safe. Not only gun safety, but safety in so many different arenas, about protecting our mental health and about staying well. And staying well starts it all. If we're healthy, our minds are in the right place, then we can deal with most of the tragic or semi-tragic situations that come before us. So thanks for the great information. I look forward to us posting the form that has all the links on it, because that will be an invaluable resource for our members. Just a couple of reminders about upcoming events. Melanie would pinch me if I did not talk about our upcoming reflection ceremony, which will take place in Orlando on May 6th. Please make sure that you register. We do need each person to register who will be attending. It's our first opportunity since 2019 to highlight our children and their success in the Reflections program. And if you have not yet registered for Leadership Convention, please make sure you do so. Registration has gone out a couple of times. It'll be going out again soon. And it contains the link not only for you to register, buy your meals, your PTA's Got Talent to support the scholarship program, but also to register for the hotel. Make sure that you click on the dates that you need. Don't just leave the generic dates, because it may come back that there are no rooms available. Click on the dates that you need, and we look forward to seeing you this summer, where we promise you you'll have a fantastic time. Meet other PTA servant leaders and advocates, and have a little fun. Thank you. Back to you, Asia.
Thank you once again for being here tonight. And from the bottom of our heart, thank you for the team, Maria and Shelley. Great job. Thank you, all of you, for giving us your time tonight. With that, have a blessed and beautiful night. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. You guys did a great job. There was some great information. That stat thing about the different countries, I took a screenshot of that. That was pretty impressive. Thank you, guys.
Oh, you're welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
So I guess we done, right? I don't know.